So, today we're diving into why we need to be the example for our kids and why they need to see us win. Because I think it's really important for us, especially as moms, but even as dads. Like, we get into parenthood and we kind of think, well, I got to put my dreams on the shelf, or I need to, stop doing what I'm doing because I need to focus on my kids. But what we don't realize is they are watching us. We are their biggest example. So, I'm really excited to dive into this. But as we get going, I'd love to hear a little of your story, Laura. Take us back to 2021. I know you went to a writing conference with your 8-week-old son. So this was your first son, right? And so tell us a little bit about what that experience was for you, diving into the writing space and also having a child with you. How was that emotionally, spiritually? Just tell us a little of your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was actually my second son. My 18-month-old was home with my husband camping. And it was one of those things where I tend to look to leap, sorry, before I look a little bit sometimes. And I had gotten into writing in 2020. I was working a receptionist job. I just finished college and they let me do homework at my desk job. And so when college was done, I was like, what will I do? I wrote a book. And again, my German mom, is a bookseller by trade. I gave it to her, and she's pretty blunt. She says things the way they are, and she was like, "Oh, it's actually good." I was like, "Oh, okay, great." And I, so I kept writing. I did the whole like pitching thing. That book will probably never see the light of day, but again, kept pitching, and I really fell in love with the writing world and the publishing world. I find it so fascinating. And so then I was like, oh, I should go to a writing conference. That's what everybody says. So I found one in Minneapolis, and Andrew Peterson was the keynote speaker that year. So I was like, all the better. I love Andrew Peterson. So I just booked some flights, signed myself up. I was like, my baby will be here. Great, we're going to go. And so, yeah, he and I hopped on a plane and went over there. Honestly, I kind of got lost in Minneapolis. I think I freaked my mom out pretty bad. I am a small town girl. So it was an interesting experience from that angle, but it was also really transformative because again, Andrew Peterson gave the keynote speech, and what I loved that he said that just stayed with me was that he's like, lots of us wait for God to give us a calling. He's like, but he's like, I think you can ask God for your calling. He's like, I said to God, I want to write songs for you. Will you let me do that? And he did. And I said, I want to write stories for you. Will you let me do that? And he did. And I just love that concept because, again, I think we can get too much in our heads about like, oh, is God supposed to magically drop something in my life that is my calling from him? And that it can be what you're good at. Like if you surrender that to God, that can be your calling. So again, really transformative. It was fun for me to meet other writers. And again, having my 8-week-old with me, it was great. I loved it because I didn't have to approach a single person. If you have a baby, everyone comes to you. I was like, this is awesome. And I also, the funny moment was I was walking along, it was a college campus, and there was a volleyball camp there. And several of the girls walked past me, and I heard one of them say, "Is that a real baby?" No, I just walk around carrying a fake baby in a car seat.
Love it. Well, there are people who do that. So, um, but I love it. You just gave us a really good marketing tip. Bring your baby along.
Exactly,
Or
exactly.
I always think pets too, like pets will
Yes.
make people talk to you too, right? So
Mhm.
I love it. We make it too complicated. So
Yes.
if you want to have a conversation, bring your kids with you. But I love it. I love it. And I love what Andrew was talking about, where it's like, don't wait for your calling. Like, I think
Mhm.
we are waiting for that divine like revolution sometimes, and
Mhm.
we're sitting and waiting and waiting, and waiting is good, but
Yeah.
really waiting can be in motion as well. We can
Mhm.
be doing the work while we wait to hear the next right step from God. And I just love how he said, ask, like
Mhm.
ask for the calling, ask for what to do next. And can I, because I love writing, can I make that a piece of it? And of course, God gave us these gifts and talents for a reason. Like he equipped us with certain things that we really enjoy so that he can use those to advance the kingdom. Now, I also think it was interesting. You had mentioned that at this conference, you were approached by two different women who gave you different perspectives. Tell us a little bit about that and how their words shaped the way you think about motherhood and purpose today.
Yeah, it was just really interesting because again, it was two separate interactions. And one woman walked up to me, and I have this baby with me, and she's like, she's like, I'm so glad to see you pursuing your goals now because I wish I had 20 years ago when I wanted to start writing, but I waited for my kids to be grown. And then another woman came to me, different interaction, and she was like, don't let this kind of gesturing to the writing conference distract you from him. What's
Mhm.
most important. And what was just interesting to me, like thinking about those things, was that I was like, I think both hold elements of truth, right? Obviously, I chose to go ahead with the writing, so I did believe, and I do believe that that is an important thing to continue again pursuing goals in front of your kids. But what the other woman's advice was that I was like, I do need to hold this in tandem with that, is to say you never want to be the person where the kids grow up and are like, you always had time for something other than me. You never had time for me. And yeah, you're famous and I don't know you. You know that you never want that to be the case. And so to hold those things and be like, no, my kids are more important. Like if it becomes a conflict, they are the more important thing. I don't think it has to become a conflict, but to bear that in mind, you know?
That's really powerful because, yeah, a lot of times we can say, "Oh, I'm sacrificing everything for them, so I'm not going to do anything." But on the
Yeah,
other side, you don't want to sacrifice them for the thing that you
exactly.
want,
Yes.
which because then I feel like that becomes an idol instead of a calling in
Yeah.
itself, right? Because they are our first ministry, so they
Yes.
are very important. I've learned just in these seasons that really what matters is relationships. Like nothing
Yes.
else matters in this world, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships and our relationship with the Lord, that's what really matters. So, when you came out of that conference, was there anything that you changed or anything you did to ensure, like, yes, I need to pursue my writing, but I'm going to make sure I do it alongside my family? Like, what were some shifts that you might have made?
Yeah. It was, it's kind of been a continuous process. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't say I have, done it perfectly either. But I do try to keep the time that I'm working while my kids are around to a minimum. That
Mhm.
again, to a minimum. That doesn't mean I don't do it, but I am very fortunate. Again, my parents live in the area and are very invested grandparents, so they do have the kids with them some, and I use that time. My kids all sleep or have quiet time in the afternoon, so I use that time. Um, so that is part of it, to again be like, let's try to balance those two things against each other. um i try to I try to remember to talk to them about it too, so that they can see where my excitement comes from, right? So it doesn't have to be like, oh, this is like you're shut out basically from this side of mom's life. It's like, no, look, I'm so excited because look at these books. I'm like, I actually wrote this and I get to go to a conference and that's so cool. And you get to hang out with dad and here's all this awesome food while I'm gone. uh to as much as I can to keep it joined. My oldest is 5, so I'm hoping as my children grow older that I can also incorporate them even more, because I see writers bring their kids with them again to conferences and on these trips, and to make it a fun thing. Be like, look, this is fun, this is a good thing, this is not again like dividing us as a family.
So good. Have them in partnership with you in a way. And what a great way to learn. They can come
Yeah.
and soak it all in too and get to see what excites you. And then it might even bring a little spark to them. You never know when their creativity is going to come out. Their little callings, their giftings are going to come out, and you'll get to like hone that as well.
Mm-hmm. it
Mm.
it makes me laugh thinking about that, because I actually went to an Andrew Peterson concert different time, and it was years ago. So he's like, I hope my daughter never marries a musician. That was just part of his talk, and she became a musician and married one. I was like, oops,
Never say never, right?
your example was too strong.
I
Too
love
strong
it.
for her. Yeah.
So let's dive into being the example for our kids.
Yeah.
Now, you've said that your children should see you chasing God's calling. I feel very passionate about that as well. When I started, my first book is called Mind Over Marathon, but it's really taking a goal from the start to the finish. And
Yeah.
when I got into motherhood, I put the dreams on the shelf, but then I
Mhm.
thought, I really need to do a goal for myself because my main mission on that goal was to know that I could do hard things. Like that
Mhm.
was the thing. Because if I can do hard things in one thing, I can do hard things in other things. And then I can teach my kids how to do hard things. But
Yeah.
it had been a while since I had taken a goal and actually ran with it. So when I wanted to have the goal of racing the Boston Marathon or qualifying for it, people would have
Yeah.
been like, that's a weird goal. Like, don't make me
Mhm.
run. Right. But that's why it was because I was like, that's something I could tangibly do and I could
Yes.
really push myself, get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I think it's really important for us to do that because they're
Mhm.
watching us. We are leading by example. They will do way more of what we do than what we
Yeah.
say, right?
Yeah.
So can you kind of walk us through, and we can have a conversation as you're walking us through this, but
Right.
the three reasons why it's actually a good thing for our kids to watch us and to see us go after our dreams and goals.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So again, one of them you did touch on that I'm like, example is everything. You see so much of that in parenting of both like positive and negative examples, right? Of being like, saw you doing that, and so hence I am doing it. You also see the negative examples of being like, you said all this stuff and you never did it, so I'm not doing it either. Um, and to me, one thought that just like has been on my heart is actually that I'm like, we're made in the image of God, right? We're made to create. We're made, and that looks different for everyone. We're made to nurture. Um, I think what I just think about sometimes though is that I'm like, I think sometimes with parenthood, that creative aspect can get um cut out, right? Like it can again get like you it can basically become where you think, hey, as a parent, all my whole image of God is in raising these kids. And God's a father, right? So that is part of the image of God. But to me, I'm like, the other parts of that image don't get blurred out
Mm.
because of parenthood. So, again, and within that, I'm like, my children are also in the image of God, right? I hope that my kids will be parents. I would love to be a grandma. I think being a parent is such a privilege and such a gift. Um, but I also am like, what if they're not? Right? Like one of my closest friends, not at this point married or in a relationship, but she is fulfilling God's call on her life as a pediatric nurse. And I want my kids to, even within me, again, see elements of that to be like, I can pursue God, even if parenthood or marriage is not in the cards for me. Um, yeah, so there's that. There is also the element of being like, if you are pursuing your goals God's way, that will also mean that there will be seasons of your life where you cut back on pursuing your goals to be there for your children. And to me, I think that's a really powerful thing to show your kids that you're like, this was important to me and is important to me, but you are more important to me. And if you are struggling or you need me in a special way here, or again, you have something big in your life that you're working on, I will be there for you and I will lay this aside to be a part of that. So there is that one. And now I'm like just blanking on my third reason. So stay tuned. It will come.
I love it. Well,
Um,
while you're thinking about it, one thought I have here too is that's really, really powerful because they need to see that they are the most important as well. Like they need to see that we are willing to step aside from what we're doing to take care of them. And I think about it, and this is where I do I love my work. Like I could work all day long and be fine with it. Honestly, I am a workhorse. I'm a driver.
yeah,
And so for me, sometimes I used to think that they were interrupting me. And I was like, no, I'm trying to get my work done. And so
yeah,
I've had to try and shift that focus to say, when they come in, they need something and I need
mm-hmm,
to show them it's important. So I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to
yeah,
turn and look at them and help them to see that I care. Right. And so,
yeah,
like, that's something I've even, like, in all the years of doing online business or even just work in general, I'm like, yes,
Yep.
I have time to stop
Yes.
and focus because it's important to have kind of that flexibility.
Yes. No, absolutely. And it just, again, I think it's one of those interesting things where it's like if you didn't have anything and we're just focused on them all the time, that actually almost takes away the weight of you being like, no, I am turning to you. Like I am actually making the effort in this case to be like, you are a priority for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something else that I think about is we only have our kids for a season. Like
Yeah.
it's a short season. If you think about it, like, I mean, I had my first at 23. I think I was 23. I think I was turning 24 the next day. I don't remember how old I
Yeah.
was. It's all a blur now. But
Yeah.
like he is now 17 and he is now out of the house.
Wow.
He's at the University of Nebraska, pursuing his gymnastics goals. And I had 17 years with him to shape
Mm-hmm.
him, to love him, to draw him closer to the Lord, to do those things.
Yeah.
17 years is not even half of my life so far. Right. So, like
Right.
now, and then I'm not even halfway through my life if I'm blessed to live that long. Right. So now I have
Yeah.
another 40 years maybe. What do
Yeah.
we do at that time? So it's like it's a short season that we get them, which is why we
Mm-hmm.
should spend time with them and not
Yeah.
sacrifice them. But at the same time, that's another reason why we should have our goals and like actually stay in step with where God's leading us, because eventually they will not be in the house anymore. Right. So, like, I think about that. And I also think about like, we're shaping them to be strong adults, strong leaders,
Mm-hmm.
but we
Yeah.
don't want them to go into adulthood thinking they can't have a goal or they can't have a dream.
Right.
Like what
Yeah.
fun is that when you have so many
Exactly.
years of your life left, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I also would say that um you want to make parenthood look good to your kids is my thought. And part of that is like if you're constantly being down on it in a way and that you're like, oh, I gave up all this stuff to be with you, or whatever. Obviously, you can have a good attitude within that. But I also am like, if you are like, no, it's not an either or. Like you can do, I have you and I have this, then to me, I'm like, that can actually make it seem appealing, where they're like, no, I don't have to view this as a everything else goes out the window situation. Um, and I found my third reason. Uh, and that was it actually can take some of the pressure off of your children to see you pursuing your goals.
Ooh.
Because I'm guessing we've all actually known the parents where they're lost when the kids leave. Like they're so lost. And the marriage struggles and they struggle and it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking, to see that. And um I think the kids actually feel that pressure. Like the young adults, obviously, that transition in your late teens. Obviously, you just got to walk through it with your son. It is hard. Like even in a good family, even with good relationships, it's just hard because you're trying to find out who you are and who you are apart from your family and again what God wants of you. And it's just a difficult time. And I think again, it lays more pressure on the child if they're like, again, you're going to be lost without me. Like I can't, you have nothing. Like I'll leave and you will be depressed and unhappy. And so it can, if they're like, no, mom will be sad when I leave or dad will be sad when I leave, but I know they have their writing or their business or their marathon running. They'll be okay. Like they'll go for a run. They'll feel better. That helps actually them to feel that for you.
Ooh, I never actually thought of it that way. And that's a really great point. And I think about it too, like, what are we doing? We're raising these kids, but we're not raising them to be kids. We're raising
Yeah.
them to be adults. We're raising them to leave our house one day and
Yes.
have a family of their own or wherever God calls them. And people have asked me, so are you sad he's gone? Like, what's it like? I haven't had a whole lot of time to mourn him being gone, but it's a little weird because usually he's up bright and early because he has gymnastics at 7 a.m. every day. And so no one's up early with me anymore. I don't get to say, have a great practice, have a good
Yeah.
day. So that's weird. But at the same time, I knew that he was ready. Like I knew
Yeah.
we did what we needed to do, mistakes and all.
Yep. Yep.
But he was ready to launch and I was ready for him too. I wasn't like, I mean, I'll take him back anytime. He can come back
Yeah.
and live with us. It's fine. I love the family unit, but I was ready for it too because I knew
Mm-hmm.
he was in good hands. I knew that
Yes.
God was calling him to the next thing. And I think that's really
Mhm.
important for us. If we hold too tightly to our kids alone and not other things, we can really get caught up when they leave the house too.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful that you're happy for him, you know? Because I'm sure that's such a gift to him to be like, my parents see all this work I've put in my gymnastics and the success I am reaping through that. And they're happy for me. Like again, they're not like come back home. Like they're like, no, go. Like in a good way, go. Live
Yeah.
what God's asking of you.
Absolutely. And now we're navigating this new season of like, letting go, holding
Mhm.
very loosely. Like that was the one parenting tip that struck me. Somebody had told me, make sure you hold your kids loosely because they're not yours, they're God's. And
Yeah.
so one day you have to let them go. But now I'm like, okay, I don't want to bug him too much. So I won't text him
Right.
too much or whatever. But he has called me a couple times just to say hi. And I'm like,
Oh,
yes,
I
because
love
that's what I
it.
want. I'm like, I want
Yes.
the relationship now still. I don't want
For
them to
sure.
leave and be like, I never have to talk to my parents again.
Exactly.
That's not it either. So it's like now we're navigating a new, beautiful season. And I would say, man, especially for those listening who have younger ones, Laura, you have younger ones. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
get easier the older they get. They need you more the older they get. I
Yeah.
always thought, no, no, it's they need me when they're young. Obviously, they need
Hmm.
you for a lot of things when they're young.
Right. Yeah.
But man, the time that you spend when they're older is you want that time. Like I would say
Yes.
you will never regret making time for that.
For them. Yeah. Absolutely. That is what I hear. I'm
Mhm.
grateful they start little. I'm like, I have time to work up to this.
Yes. And each season is beautiful in itself.
Mhm.
I always tried to rush the seasons. And that would be the
Yeah.
one thing I would say to my younger self is just be in the season, just be in that moment. Don't try and get out of it. Don't try and
Mhm.
rush it because it goes
Yes.
way too fast. So, I am curious too, because you had brought up a point, one of the things about pausing and pivoting. So, like, if they need you, it's okay
Yeah.
to pause what you're doing or pause your goals to go focus on them because I mean, life happens, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm curious what has helped you to know when to press forward and when to pause or pivot, especially in those seasons?
A really good question. Um, some of it, some of it ends up being intuition. And
Mhm.
doesn't sound like a very helpful response, but I think sometimes like I was actually working at a coffee shop last year as a barista. I just always wanted to. And so just doing that as little like part-time work and feeding that into the writing money and all that good stuff. But kind of as I got to the end of the time I spent there, my middle child was again, he was just struggling. Like he was just struggling with stuff and we were struggling with him and it was just a thing. And by the end, and again, I think I wouldn't be quick. I think I would be like, I wouldn't immediately usually drop everything unless you are like, no, I really, this is a crisis, I can tell. Um, but I think sometimes again, my intuition would definitely have been like, he needs more good time with me. And I'm stretched too thin right now. Um, and I'm not giving him enough of that. And so we're having behavioral things, and those might continue even if I do have more good time. But at least if I have more good time with him, at least we'll have that to counterbalance whatever else is going on as well. So I think it's that question to me of trying, like you're saying, it's relationship. So trying to be in tune with your children, right? That I'm like, if you get so zoned in on the other thing that you're not catching it, right? Like you're not catching that they are, worried or distressed or extremely happy about something. If you're just kind of like blinders on, I think to me that's the most dangerous place to be. Like you do need to be like, I'm trying to have my radar up basically to be like, what is motivating you right now, and what is again, what's going on inside you.
Mhm. Yeah, and I would say, well, for me, and I would say for many others, part of the issue of like, "Ugh," letting go or pausing
Mhm.
is the whole idea that, well, what if I let go of the pump and like
Right.
everything stops. How do I get back
Yeah.
in motion again?
Right.
So have you had a time where you've essentially like stopped and then you did start back up?
Right.
What are some tips to like get back into it from those
Hmm.
pauses?
It to me, it's like exercise because I have actually done that. Like if I tend to write kind of slow and regularly, and that's how I finish books. And if I take a break, which I do, again, like when my kids are born or through various when I'm pregnant, various different seasons, it is hard to get back in. And so I have to tell myself that again, it's that exercise thing that you're like, when you start exercising again after not exercising, you're like, this is horrible. I hate this. Like it hurts. It's really hard and that you basically have to believe, and that is that mindset thing. You have to believe that it will get easier and that the strength will come and the results will come and those gains will come if you continue to show up consistently for it. So that is for me with the writing, that is what I have done. It's like if I take a break, again, it is harder to get back in, but I try to get back to that consistency, being like, I'm writing a little bit every single day. And eventually the flow of that story will come back to me.
Mm, I love that so much. Now, I know kind of in wrapping it all up in a bow, what would you say to the listener who's really sitting on a God dream? They're
Yeah.
sitting on a goal, but they're holding back out of fear that it will pull them away from her
Mm,
family.
yeah. Yeah. I would say that there are a lot of ways to do things and a
Mm,
lot of right ways. And that also that I know I can have the incorrect mindset that once I start something, I am locked in and I must stick to it that way. And that to me, I'm like, it's actually freeing to say, hey, you have this dream in your heart, right? I think sitting down and being like, how could I achieve this? And basically looking at different paths where you're like, how could I get this done? I know writers, right? Who they crank out a book in 6 weeks. Like that is the way they write. And that works. And in some ways, I'm like, you can figure that out, right? In that you could then be like, hey, husband or wife or spouse, will you keep the children for a more concerted period of time? And I'm going to like crank it out and then have longer stretches where I'm not writing. Or like me, again, I just like chip away at it. So that being said, all kinds of dreams again are like that, where you can figure out something different that might work. I would try some different things and be willing to again to change if it is not working. I would also say, which this is the unpopular piece of advice, it's hard. It is hard. And you have to be willing to say, is this important enough to me to take the hard? Because there are plenty of people who, with writing, with exercise, with other dreams, again, you get up early even though you don't want to, you stay up late when you don't want to, you take the like nap time or break time, and instead of vegging out, you use that productively. And I would just always be like, hey, like Jesus said, you count the cost of that tower before you start it. So if you want it, I'm like, you can have it. You can. But that's not a guarantee that it will be a painless or easy process for you to get there.
if it were easy, everyone would do it. That's what I always
Exactly.
say. God never promised us a life of easy. He promised us a life with bumps and turns and pivots and all the things. And so we
Exactly.
have to be willing to say yes to that.
Yes.
So I love it. Like thinking about, is it important enough for me to do the hard? And I
Yes.
love how you said there are a lot of right ways to do
Mm-hmm.
something. I mean,
Yeah.
even when I got into business, I'm listening to all the gurus out there saying you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to do
Mm-hmm.
this. And, it was not really in alignment with who I am or what I want
Yeah.
to do. And so I did it all those ways and got frustrated and burnt out and realized I was listening to the wrong voices because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have the capacity that I had. They didn't have the season I had. And I needed
Exactly.
to find those people who have gone through it in kind of that same similar capacity and telling me then this is how you could do it. This is how you could do it a little
Exactly.
more simply, and then also like being in tune with where God is leading us and being obedient to him. Like if he tells us to do something and it seems very different than the advice out there,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to follow his advice way faster than I'm going to follow that because I know it works. Like I know
Yeah.
if I'm in obedience, that's what's going to lead me to the next thing. But again, like you said, Laura, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. it doesn't, that path, what he's going to say might be really tough. And we have
Mhm.
to be okay with that. Now in God's leading, like I'm all about listening to him, being in step with him, listening for that next right step. Like we don't have to know it all, because honestly, I think planning is important. Like you said, like figuring out how you think you're going to do it and
Mhm.
then being willing to adjust. But we
Mhm.
have to have some type of a roadmap, some type of a plan, but then being willing to kind of thwart that plan as God leads and letting him lead. That's what, pursuing goals God's way means to me. And I love to hear from my guests what pursuing goals God's way means to you. So, what would you say, Laura, to that?
I do. I love that. That's a really good way of thinking about it. And to me, that does part of that would be being in community with God's people is always to me what is helpful in that, right? Because then you can have um, you want to have people who are close enough in your life that they can speak to you and you can kind of hear God, the Spirit of God through them. Um, and how that can help too with balancing parenting and pursuing your goals is that if you have someone close enough in your life, they might even be able to have a better read than you do. Sometimes on being like, hey, your kids need you right now. Like I think you're getting a little tunnel vision here, or to be like, no, you're ready to go. Like your kids are doing great. They're going to be fine. And they give you that like push that you need to be like, yes, like pursue that. It's going to be okay. And, um, and the support that you need, I always think of Joshua and Aaron holding up Moses's arms when he's too weak to keep going. And like for me, I've just been so grateful for my parents in my life because they've just really supported me in this. And um, I've gone to my mom for sure depressed and like nothing's happening and this is all terrible, and she has held up my arms, like she's been like, it's gonna be all right, like it and look at the stuff that has happened and that God has provided for you in this time. So I would definitely surround yourself with people who are God's people. That would be a big part of it for me, and in tandem with what you said.
Gosh, I love that. Community is huge. I mean, if you are a faith fueled entrepreneur, especially a parent entrepreneur, and you want that community, go check out Red Hot Accountability Club. That's exactly what it's there for.